Hello there and welcome to this painting video. So today guys I'm going to be painting up one of the models from the new Fallschirmjagers kits that's out from Warlord Game to celebrate the release of version 3 of Bolt Action. It's very much focused on the Battle of the Bulge, and it's something I've been doing for the last 12 months. I've actually bought a lot of the old winter models, some of the metal models, and I've been painting up a couple of armies for the Germans and the Americans. So I was really pleased to see for the version 3 there were some brand new models, and this plastic kit's beautiful. 30 models, lots of different multi-pose, weapons, arms, heads, etc. Really nice to see, so you can really make variations on your platoons. And whilst I was building up my forces, I actually got quite a neat kind of quick way of doing white winter uniforms. So I thought I'd just show you how I do that. Now there's lots of different ways you can do this. This is just my method. I found it quite simple for just doing, you know, when you're doing 20, 30 infantry, it can be a little bit laborious, and white's not the easiest thing to do. I found this really worked really well, and this is, remember, tabletop standard, guys. I'm not an award-winning painter or anything. This is just for, you know, reasonable, decent tabletop standard that you can use for your games. So so I'm not going to waffle on for too long. So we'll crack on and we'll see how we get on. Okay, so firstly, I just thought I'd show you a finished model. So this is one of the riflemen from that kit. So this is what I'm going for, and as you can see, I think it's pretty effective. This didn't take long to do at all. I didn't want to go for a crisp finish. I wanted to kind of, you know, these guys are going to be in the middle of the Ardennes, or, you know, it's not great conditions in foxholes and trenches, so they're going to be a bit grubby, a little bit grimy. So I've just gone for that kind of look really, and obviously with the basing as well. So yeah, so quite straightforward. I'm using some contrast paints and some standard paints as well. It's a bit of a mixture. So I'll just go through the different stages, and then we'll see if we can get something else to look very much like that. Okay, so step one is I've assembled all my models, obviously. So I've gone for a variety of different poses. And then what I do is I just, this is just using some blue tack. I'll put the models onto this stick for undercoating, because I'm going to be using a kind of a Zenithal method, which you may have heard of, which is basically start off with a black undercoat. So I'll be spraying these black first. As you see, you can see all the different poses. It's really nice kits, these, aren't they? So lots of different options there. And you also, just quickly, you'll notice I use these bases. So I don't use the standard Bolt Action ones, which are those thin ones. I use these more regular 25mm bases, and the reason for that is I've magnetised the bottom of mine, so I can stick them into some storage cases for travel and for storage. So it's just how I do it. So basically, the first job is to give these a black spray. So I'll do that and just come back. Right, so there we go. So the black undercoat's done. Very easy on these on a stick, because I can just hold it at arm's length, and just means I can manipulate the spray as I go around. I'm just using a rattle can for this. I haven't got anything fancy like a airbrush, but you could obviously use an airbrush if you've got one. So that's the black done. And the key thing with the Zenithal highlight is this black undercoat gives you some shadowing. And the next step is the crucial one in this to get this winter camouflage. So let me just zoom out a little bit and I'll show you what I mean. Right, so I've zoomed out a little bit. So this is the most important step in some respects, because this is the Zenithal effect starting. So I'm using this grey sear spray. And again, if you've got an airbrush, you can do an airbrush. I use a rattle can. And the key thing is this: don't go heavy on this. Okay, this is a light grey as well. It's not white, it's light grey. And all I'm doing, I'm angling my stick like that, and I'm basically spraying down on top like that. And it's very, very, what I tend to do is a couple of quick bursts on each model. So it's not one sustained spray, it's like quick spray. And then I just angle it like that a little bit, like 45 degrees. And again, another couple of quick sprays. And then same on the back as well. And basically that gives you that kind of, it'd be lighter on top, dark underneath with the shadowing. So I can't show you that live because I haven't got the camera set up, but I'll go and do that outside and come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so that's the grey spray done. And as you can see, it's a little bit heavier on top. As you get underneath, you can see all the dark from the black is still there. I've not gone, as you can see, I've not gone too heavy. This is literally a couple of sprays, that's all you need. Sometimes it does look a bit more than you think, but then when it dries, it does dry a little bit more grey like that. And this is basically building up the layers of shadow. There was one more step to go to get this winter scheme done. That's it, and then we've done all the white. So the next step is to do a dry brush, and I'm using just a basic white here. I'm just using this model colour white, but you can use any white. The cheaper the better in some respects for this sort of stuff. That's all I've got. And I'm going to do a quick dry brush over the top of this just to highlight it, and then that white scheme is finished. So I'll come back and do that next. Okay, now for the white dry brush. This is the last step in the Zenithal process. So I'm just going to put a little bit on my brush here. It's got an old dry brush here, get most of it off. I do go for I always try to get as much off, because I like to go a bit heavy on this in some respects. But I'm just using a very light touch, just brush over the top. Just trying to pick up the raised areas on the back here, on the hood, etc. On the arm, and onto the leg. Just focus a little bit on the knee there. Then on this side here, down onto that leg. And then just this front area here as well. Oops, hit the camera. As you get more off, you can go a little bit heavier, I find, because you've got less paint on it. But I'm just trying to keep the shadowing here inside. I think that's about it. So that's it. That's all you need to do. That is done. Now let me just show you that against this guy here, because at the moment it looks a bit weird, but when you see it all together, I've got some of this snow to put on as well. That is all I need. I might do a little bit more on the leg. The leg looks a bit too grey, so I might just pop a bit more onto the leg on the side. But you can see it's that dirty white look really. So I'll just finish him off, and then I'll go through the rest of the squad and we'll come back. Right, so the first colour I'm going to be using is Garrigax Sewer, and that's going to be, this is the contrast painting from Zenithal, and that's going to be for all the webbing straps. I'm going to be using a small layer brush, and basically I'm going into these areas here around the belt, and then there's a couple of straps that just come down this part here. The key thing is, now you've done all the white, is to keep it nice and neat and tidy. So take your time and just make sure you get into a nice layer across there. Okay, so I'll do that and I'll come back. Right then, so that's that one done. So we've just got the strap down the back there, around the belt, and just pick up the straps on the top there. So okay, so that's that done. So the next thing I'm going to do is this pouch here in the middle. So, and I'm using Agaros Dunes for that one, so I'll come back and do that now. Right, so that's the pouch done. It's just still drying there, as you can see. So I'm moving on to the next colour. So next one's going to be for the boots, and I'm going to be using Cygor Brown for this. Now with this one, this is quite a heavy colour. So what I tend to do, once I've applied it, I do try and just take a little bit off the edge of the boots. Otherwise it can be a bit too dark. So don't be too heavy with this one. Okay, so I'll do that and come back. Okay, so that's the boots done. Quite like that Cygor Brown. It's a nice leather colour. By the way, I did completely forgot to do the strap on the rifle, and also there's a little strap here on the helmet in the Garrigax Sewer. So for the same colour, I did that. So yeah, I've just filled in the strap on the rifle, on the automatic rifle there, and also put in the straps on the helmet. Right, so the next colour is going to be for his gloves, which they were wearing gloves, and also he has got a kind of a headscarf underneath the helmet. So I'm using this Basilicanum grey for that. So I'll come back and do that next. Okay, so that's the grey done just on his gloves there, and I'm just filled in the scarf around there. So the next colour I'm going to do, there's a bit of wood on the automatic rifle here, just on the bottom here, and also at the stock end here. Won't be much on this one particular this rifle. I am using the Wildwood contrast paint for that, but for the previous model, which was the one I showed you, that's Wildwood as well. So I've used Wildwood all the way down that rifle. Okay, so I'll come back and do that next. Okay, that's all done. So it's only a little bit there, just a bit on the side here, under there for the stock, and a bit on the back there for the back of the butt there. So okay, so the next colour I'm going to do the rest of the metal, which I'm going to undercoat in a black. So we use Black Templar. So I'll do that and then come back. So that's the metal done. So what I will be doing is I'll just be adding a few little bits of metallics on there just to give it a slightly worn look, but it looks pretty much, you could leave it at that, to be honest. It's pretty okay as it is. So that's kind of the end of the contrast journey. So we're now going to move on to some standard acrylic paints. So the first one we're going to do, we've got all these bits of bobs. We've got some water bottle, got a carry case, we've got his ammo pouches there. So we're going to be painting those in German camo dark green. Okay, so come back and do that first. Right, so that's all that done. So you see, still a bit wet from the two very thin coats that I put on these things. I think actually when you've got this sort of undercoat as well, when you do thin coats of paint, you can always see there's almost like natural highlights on those. I mean, I don't bother highlighting, you'll see why shortly. So that's the green done. So almost done with the batch colours. We've just got to do the face now. Now, skin, you can do skin in multiple different ways. This is just how I do it. You know, apply your own schemes, it's absolutely fine. But I do a base of Bugman's Glow to start off with. But also, you know, he's got a little cigarette in his mouth. So I'm going to avoid that because I want to keep that white. Because obviously cigarettes were white. So Bugman's Glow, and we'll come back after that. Right, so as you can see, really coming together now. Hopefully you can see now that that white scheme is really starting to stand out now. I mean, as you can see, it's quite basic to do, nothing too complicated. Just got to be a little bit careful with how you spray, a little bit of dry brushing, but really starting to come together now as a completed model. And you can just see the cigarette in his mouth there. So that's skins. So I'm just going to do one now. This again, just the way I do things. It's not. This is again, people like to do skin in different ways. So the next step, I'm going to use Cadian Flesh Tone, which is a slightly lighter skin colour. And what I do is I just dab on a little bit on the nose, a little bit on the cheeks, and a little bit on the chin. And that just gives a little highlight. And I'm going to go and do a little wash afterwards. And this kind of gives a bit of a grimy, grubby skin, a little flush cheek look, so to speak, as if you've been in the cold. But again, you know, when you're 3 feet away, whether anybody notices that, I don't really know. But yeah, so I'll do that next and then we'll come back. Right, that, my friends, is it. So all the main colours are done now. As you can see, that little bit of highlighting on the nose and the cheeks and the chin, just give it a little bit of a standout when he's down here, as you can see. So he's pretty much done now. So the final steps are quite straightforward. And again, you could potentially leave the model like that. It's fine. I mean, I don't think anybody would criticise you for having that on the table. I think it was pretty cool. Obviously, I've got to do some basing next. So next steps are, though, I'm going to put a little wash on these areas. So basically on the acrylic paints. Now, this bit is just my own recipe. So this is basically, you could just use a dark wash. This grimy bottle is a 50-50 mix of Agrax Earthshade, which is a Citadel wash, and water. And it's as simple as that. I just do a 50-50 mix. And the reason I do that, it just waters it down to, if it's, even with the new contrast style Earthshade, which they brought out now, which is this one, which is more of a contrast style. It's not as strong as what they had before. I still water it down 50-50, and it just means it's not quite as heavy going on things. And I find when I'm doing this, you don't really need to then to go back over it. Sometimes when you do washes, you've got to then go back and clean them up and stuff. And I find with this, it's not too bad. So I'm going to put this on the skin, and then onto the green, to the acrylic areas, just those areas alone. And so I'll do that, and then I'll come back and show you how that looks. Right, so that's that wash applied. It's still drying a little bit, but hopefully you can see now that skin, I think that's fine for me. No, wasn't particularly hard to do. One base coat, a little bit of highlighting, cheek, nose and chin, and that 50-50 wash. It just gives that slightly grubby, flushed cheek look, which I think is quite good. And on the acrylics, you say it's still drying, but as you can see, it just gives it a little bit of a wash, but it's not too heavy. I don't need to go back over that. And there is another reason why, because I will be doing a little bit of dry brushing at the end. As part of the effects. So that's the main model now finished. Now, to be honest with you, apart from the basing, you could just leave it there. But I'm going to go. I've got a few other bits to do, just to give it a bit of variety. So the first one is I'm going to be using some Basilicum grey and a little sponge. And I'm going to be dabbing that onto the helmet and just giving it a little bit of a speckled, just a light dabbing of that. Just basically dab it so it's almost dry, and just touching the top of that, and that'll give it a little bit of wear as if the paint's coming off. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of this, I use this, which is Scale 75 black metal, and I'm just going to put a little bit of dabs on some of the gun area just to show a little bit of wear on the gun. So I'll just do that and I'll come back after that. Right, so there we go. So a little bit of weathering on the helmet there. As you can see, just looks a bit like a few chips and bumps from the paint that's been sprayed on it. And then the gun, as you say, just a few little highlights of scratches there, just look like it's a bit chipped and just a bit of wear and tear. So that's pretty much the model completed at this stage. So I've only a few things left to do, and the next thing I'm going to do is the basing. Now I use this Vallejo Dark Earth, so I'm just going to put that on and then let that dry, and then we'll come back. So that's the Dark Earth now all dry. So next step is to add some Agrex Earth Shade. So don't water this down, I just did this straight from the bottle, so just do that next. Right, so that wash is now dried. So this is the last stage of the painting, so I've got a bit more dry brushing to do. So I'm just going to put a bit of white paint onto my dry brush. And again, I'm going to get rid of most of it onto this bit of paper here. I'm just going to then go over the base, just like this. Just gently brush around the base, like that. And then also what I do is just give the edge of this just a little, just roughly go around here, just to give the edge of the base a little bit of, not looking to fill it in, I'm just looking to shade it a little bit, a bit of dry brushing like that, just to give the base, because it is grey at the moment, so that just gives it that. And then lastly, just a little bit on the webbing, yeah, just a light brush on the webbing, and it's almost like a little bit frosty, like that. And then a little bit on here as well, just here, just very, very lightly there. Okay, so that is done. So I just need to now do my snow features. So I'll just come back and show you what I do for the snow. Right, so in terms of the basing effects, which if you look at this one here, you can see you've got some snow on the base, and then there's bits of snow around the uniform and body. So I use two things. I use this Battlefield Snow from Hobby Painter, which looks a little bit like salt. And then I also use this, and that's for the base. And then I use this Vallejo Weathering Effects Snow, and that's for the bits around the body. So very simple. Just going to open this up here. So I'll do this live. And so I've got a very old paintbrush that I use. I'm just going to dip that into some PVA. Show it over here. And then literally I'm just putting some around here. I'm going to just put a little bit around the feet like that, and then just around the back area here, just trying to be a little bit random with it, like that. A bit more there. Then I'm just going to dunk that into here, shake it off, and that's that done. That'll dry off. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to, and I'll do the snow effect as well. So I'll just do that off camera because it's a little bit difficult to do on the camera, and then I'll come back and show you how that looks. Actually, I will try and do this on the camera so you can see what I'm actually doing. So I'm literally, I've got again an old paintbrush, and I'm just literally just going to put a bit on the helmet there so it's fell on top. And I always think you're going to have a bit on your elbows if you're crawling around in the snow. So a little bit on the elbows there, and on this one here as well. This does dry a little bit less glossy. Some of the knees, again just where you'd be crawling around in the snow. A little bit around the feet as well, just around the bottom of his trousers there. So that, and then a little bit on the back here where it might have just fallen down, and some on the top of his packs here. So I'm just being a bit light with it, not doing too. So this is just where it might have just fallen down as he's running around. A bit more on that back there. Okay. So that's pretty much all the snow we want to put on him. So let me let that dry off, and then I'll come and show you the finished crew. Right, so that's that finished. Well, it's half squad, isn't it? So I've got another 5 models to do. I tend to work in batches of 5, but this is the guy I've been working on. I think he's turned out pretty good. Happy with that. Again, you could do a lot crisper standard. You could lots of different ways of doing white. That's just how I do it. And you could interchange your own colours for these things. I mean, these are just the colours I've been using, but you can change what you want really, but I think overall when he's down on the tabletop he's going to look pretty cool like that. The rest of the squad, that was my test model, so with the rifle there, and then I've got another guy there with another automatic rifle, slightly different pose, and there's another guy with a rifle here. And you see, really nice kits, aren't they? So I think you can do lots with these. Quite like them. And finally another guy with slightly different trousers on there. I noticed on the box art they used a light blue. Yeah, not sure. I mean, I did a bit of research around some of the uniforms and I couldn't really see that, interestingly. But I thought I quite like just like doing the white anyway. I think it looks pretty nice just as it is. But yeah, so hopefully you enjoyed that, guys. Like I say, this is just my method of different ways of doing things, but hopefully you've picked up something from that you can work with. And keep yourself safe and catch you all very soon.